Okay, so there's this and this questions about karma. Mostly, there are a few that weren't. So I could just switch the topic of the retreat to karma, or I could follow what we said we were going to do. I think we need to follow what the Course said we were going to do. So again, I asked the people who have so many questions about karma. It's wonderful that you're curious about it. It's really an important topic. I refer you to those chapters in the foundation of Buddhist practice. There are many chapters, not just a couple of pages. And then also read this book. As you read this book, you will understand karma better and better. Okay? So, excuse me for not fulfilling your wishes, but I think it's better we stick to the topic of the retreat. But I will talk a little bit about some of the things. Okay, so there's a lot of thing about collective karma, and was it group karma that allowed 6 million Jews to be murdered, or the mass murder of the blacks in Tulsa 100 years ago? So what action or motivation on their part precipitated it? It's interesting when we see a group of people who are oppressed or experiencing pain together, our heart really goes out to them. When we see people who are oppressing others or torturing others, we have a lot of negative feelings towards them. Actually, these two groups of people are related. The people who did the torture, who did the murder in a future life are the victims of some other kind of oppression. Yeah. So it isn't that you're always born in the same ethnic or racial group. It isn't that, how to say, yeah, it's just, the things that people did in a group, they may have done it, thousands of years ago. And it's just the karma that is ripening together now. But if you think of actions that people do as a group, as I mentioned yesterday, we are a group now. We gather together to learn the Dharma, to improve our minds, to progress on the path. So we came together as a group for a specific reason. Yeah. So we create group karma together. Yeah, in this case, virtuous, because we're doing a virtuous action together. But within that group, people also have different motivations and do different actions. And so they will have different results when the group as a whole experiences, something together. Okay? So somebody also brought up the question, and then how could something that awful, like what happened in Tulsa 100 years ago, happen to even small children who live there? Because in a previous life, those small children could have been soldiers in some other army, in another universe, or, done something together, and the karma is ripening. It ripened at that time. Okay. And then somebody says, Biden recently signed the largest military budget in the history of this nation. And we're also, the U.S. is the largest global arms dealer, and we're currently waging 7 wars around the world and contributing to other things, So people who pay taxes Many of them don't want their tax money to be used for this, for armaments and wars and so on. So what you do when you send your checks in, you write at the top, use for social service projects only. Do not use for armaments or war. Okay? Because you may belong to a group that is acting in a certain way. But if you say, I don't agree with that motivation, I don't agree with that action, then you don't create the collective karma with them. Okay. Then could I say something more on the statement that ignorance doesn't produce negative karma? I didn't say ignorance doesn't produce negative karma. I said ignorance itself as a mental factor is not negative. Ignorance, when it gives way to distorted conceptions and afflictions and negative actions, then it supports those actions. The actions create the karma. Okay. So ignorance is simply the misapprehension of how things exist that ordinary beings have, whether we create virtuous karma or non-virtuous karma. So that's why ignorance itself is something neutral. Okay. Now here's, okay. Then somebody had a comment. We have a very hard time avoiding blame the victim interpretation of karma. I try to avoid analyzing others' karma. The teaching on karma is a practice to be applied to oneself. Exactly. Our job is not to go around and say, oh, you're sick, you created negative karma, naughty, naughty. I mean, come on, that's so uncompassionate. Yeah, or these people who go, oh, your anger is making you have a cancer, kind of saying, oh, you're so angry and you act out of anger and now you have cancer, so you created your cancer. No, come on. That's not very compassionate to say to somebody. The teachings on karma are given so that we can look at our actions and get ourselves put together, not so that we can form a lot of judgmental opinions as a know-nothing person that criticizes and condemns other people. Okay? So be very, very clear about that. That's not the purpose of learning about karma. Okay, now here's something interesting. I've noticed that more than once I've acted purely out of benefit for another sentient being. But later on, at least one of the 8 worldly concerns creeps in. After reflecting and discussing this issue with my husband, he says that he sees the truth in my conclusion, which is that our society and our peers influence our post-deed thoughts. Yeah, so you do something with one motivation, then after you do it, you talk about it with your friends, then your friends' feedback influences how you feel about what you did. Okay, so, and in this case, the peers' feedback is directing the person towards worldly concerns. So we live among people who are always judging each other by quantifying their achievements. For example, I make this amount of money on that housing or stock transaction. I was promoted. I donated this much to charity. I raised this much to build a new school, and so forth. Okay, so using actions that should be done with a virtuous motivation to increase our status and our reputation. Okay, so this is happening for this person because of the feedback of their friends. Okay. Doing kind deeds simply for the sake of helping someone doesn't cut it in our society, at least not in my crowd. Okay. Choose your friends well. Yeah, because we become like our friends. We adopt the values of our friends. So if your friends have values that you don't admire, choose other people who have values you do admire to be your friends. That doesn't mean be rude to your friends, like, hey, you pollute me. No, it's just, we are easily adversely influenced. So we need to protect ourselves from that kind of thing. What can I do to continue to do kind deeds without my mind going in the direction of the 8 worldly concerns? Think about the disadvantages of the 8 worldly concerns. Think about the kind of person you want to be. Think about the kind of thoughts you want to have, and then spend some time cultivating those thoughts. Think about the kind of motivations you want to have. And before you do something, stop and pause and cultivate that kind of motivation. I did not used to have this problem. In all honesty, I didn't used to even count my kind deeds. I hope nobody counts their kind deeds, The change in me has been disturbing, and I would like to go back to how I was previously. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. So, like I said, hang around some people who have the values that you respect. Find a Buddhist group, and within that group, find people who are practicing well. Or, any other kind of group. It doesn't have to be a Buddhist group. There's lots of nice people in the world. And create those kind of friends. And like I said, take time and cultivate your motivation in the morning, like I talked about, I think it was yesterday. And, do some purification practices and take charge of your own life instead of running around being very busy and just, whatever people say to you, you say, yeah, sure, and I want you to like me, so I'll think like that. No, you choose how you want to be and take that path. And some people will go, oh, you've gotten so prudy. You used to drink when we all got together, and now you don't drink. You think you're holy because you're a Buddhist now. Yeah, some people will say that. And you say, I don't want to drink. I feel better when I don't drink. And why do you drink? Yeah. I mean, we're so shy, so afraid to state when something is disturbing to us and stick up for what is right. Yeah, we're so afraid if I don't drink when other people are drinking, that they're going to think bad of me. Why are you afraid of what other people are thinking so much of you? Why so much are you thinking about what other people are thinking about you? Why does it matter to you, especially people who want you to do things that you don't want to do, that you don't want to be that kind of person? Yeah. Sometimes so many people tell me that they don't want to drink at parties, but they drink because they're so afraid what everybody else is going to think, that sometimes I think maybe nobody at the party wants to drink, but they all drink because they think everybody else wants them to drink. what's wrong with saying, I don't drink? Or I don't take drugs. Yeah, I know. I used to take drugs with you, and that was great, but I don't do that now. And if you like me as an unstoned person, as an unintoxicated person, that's good. And if you don't like me because I'm not intoxicated, then there wasn't much to the friendship to start with. Yeah, if you're going to judge me because, I don't want to do under-the-table business deals anymore, and I don't want to drink, and I don't want to collaborate with your lying, and you're going to judge me because of that, that's okay. Then that means that there wasn't really much friendship there at all, was there? It just means people were using each other. Yeah, and when we want friends, we want people who will respect our choices, and when we have good values, who will respect that instead of tease us and put us down. Yeah, it's amazing how shy and fearful we are about that kind of thing. I was just listening to one interview from many, many years ago, and one nun was saying, I watch Western Sangha, and they don't want to wear their robes when they go into town. They dress like lay people. What is wrong? You are holding the precepts of the Buddha. You should be proud and self-confident because of that, and not think that, that you have to hide it so that you blend in and wear clothes that everybody else does. Yeah. It was so nice. She spoke, boom, like that. And, that's the kind of thing people need to think about. Yeah. So, if your whole life is about trying to please other people and trying to have a good reputation and get them to like you and praise you, you're pretty miserable. You've lost yourself. You don't know what you believe in anymore or who you are. So it's important, we need to be responsible for ourselves and be confident about that.
Sometimes I'll have a good motivation for something I'm doing, maybe an excellent motivation, and a thought that's based on the 8 worldly concerns will pop up, and I don't need anybody else's input to have caused that. It's just that I'm habituated to that.
Yeah.
And if I can just go, oh, that's not a good motivation. It's just a passing thought. It's a habit for that thought to come up.
Yeah.
I think back on my original motivation, and I go on.
Yeah.
And I try to habituate myself to a better way of thinking.
Yep.
But they're going to come up as secondary thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm already worried about what other people think, then I've already got the 8 concerns going.
Yeah. Yeah. And if that thought comes up in yourself, like you said, you just come back, you notice it, you say, I don't want to think like that. That's not my real motivation. You renew your original motivation and you go on. Yeah. Okay, then another one. When people vomit all over others with their anger, etc., I think they're often unskillfully trying to connect. I agree. Yeah. Sometimes we get angry, we explode. Well, sometimes it depends on the situation. This isn't always the case. But sometimes what we're really trying to say is, I care about you and I want to connect with you. And so instead of, if we can hear that in somebody else's words instead of, I can't stand you and you always do this, it just to realize, that person is trying to connect and they need some time to settle down. But maybe when they do, then we can have a good conversation and connect in a good way. Yeah. I remember one time I had warned a friend about doing something, and then he did it, and then it created a problem. And, and I was mad. And then I realized, I was mad, but what I was really trying to say was, I care about you and I'm glad you weren't hurt. Even though you were so stupid and I told you not to do that. No, but to take out the even you were so stupid and just say, people do what people do. We can't control them. But I'm glad that you weren't injured when that happened. In a lot of the Pali sutras, the Buddha talks about listening to the wise. Yeah. So not being concerned with what worldly people think, what foolish people think, but be concerned with what the wise think. And if the people who are wise don't agree with what you're doing, think about it. Think about your motivation. Think about your action. If foolish people don't agree with what you're doing, don't worry about it. Yeah? Because there's no way at all to please everybody. Totally impossible. So if you want everybody to like you, which, by the way, is one of my first rules of the universe. The first one is everything needs to happen the way I want. And the second one is everybody needs to like me and think I'm good. That one trips me up. Well, both of those. All my rules of the universe trip me up. Because they're all just so self-centered. So, why does everybody need to like me? It is a free world. They have freedom not to like me. That's okay. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. If somebody who I admire because they have integrity and good values, if they don't think what I did was good, then I go and I listen. Yeah. But if people who are doing this and that and the other thing, one person wants me to do this, the other person wants me to do that. Your mother wants you to do this career, your father wants you to do that career. Yeah, your little brothers and sisters want you to do another one. Your big brothers and sisters want you to do another one. And you're trying to please everybody. Are you going to succeed in making everybody happy? No, impossible. It's impossible to make worldly people happy. Because even if you do one thing that pleases them, they're going to come up with something else. Yeah. And then you spend your whole life trying to figure out what I think other people think I should be, and then do that without any sense of your own integrity, your own choice, your own responsibility for your life. And then that just leads to a life full of regret and a life spent blaming other people. Neither of which are very much fun. Yeah. So this is not having an attitude of, well, you're a stupid worldly person, I don't care what you think. It's not dismissive and condescending like that. I don't care about you, you're stupid. It's not that. It's having a sense, of what kind of person we want to be and being responsible for that. Yeah? And I'll listen to you, and you have an opinion, and thank you very much. No? And maybe if something makes sense, I might consider it. If somebody is giving me advice about how to repair a car, I will definitely listen to them because they know more about car repair than I do. Yeah. So even though there may be somebody who, does other things or has other ideas that I don't especially want to model, if they know more than I do about a particular topic, I listen to them. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of smart, isn't it? Otherwise, you wind up, well, I think this is good, I think that's good, and you have no expertise about anything. Okay. So following the advice on a practical problem of, the advice of the experts, I'm a Dr. Fauci fan. Yeah. I mean, he knows much more about COVID than I do, and I respect that. Okay. And other people who say it's going to vanish, and it's all a hoax, those people are not experts about it, and I don't listen to what they say. Okay. But if they're experts in something else that I need to learn about, then I'll listen. If I think that they're an honest person. If somebody is not honest, no matter what they tell me, I don't listen. Yeah. So, yeah. Your discussion this afternoon was on self-confidence. This is talking about self-confidence. Yeah. And His Holiness often says, if you want to be a bodhisattva, you have to have very strong self-confidence. Yeah. Because if you're a bodhisattva, you are going to be doing whatever is best for somebody else. And sometimes what is best for somebody else, they don't like. Yeah. If you have a relative who has a substance abuse problem, and they ask you for money, and you say, I'm not going to give you money, but I'll take you to rehab, they aren't going to, they might get furious with you. Yeah. If you're a bodhisattva and you're trying to do what's good for somebody, and somebody gets mad at you and you just crumble and say, oh, but please like me, please. Okay, I'll give you some money to drink. It's not so good for you, but, please like me. I want everybody to approve of me. That's not a bodhisattva action, is it? Yeah. So to be bodhisattvas, we have to be very, very courageous. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing. Okay, I know people don't like when I talk about politics, but lying. Okay. And I'm just talking about this because it is such a good example. Yeah. If somebody is encouraging you to lie, do you go along with it? Yeah. Do you jump in and say yes? Isn't there something called enabling? Aren't there many support groups for enablers who want people's approval, so they join in whatever that person wants them to do, like lie to cover something up? When I look at the lying that is going on in our country today, and how people are so intimidated by having the liar-in-chief criticize them, that they give up their own values and they say pink is purple and yellow is chartreuse, just to please somebody who's the liar in chief, I don't get it. These people are supposed to be adults. They're supposed to be able to think for themselves. Yeah? And it's, Liz Cheney and I have very different politics, but I admire her, because she is somebody with integrity. Yeah? And then so many other people, all they want is power. So what do? They go along with the big lie so they don't get criticized. And then they pass the lie on and they deceive other people, all for the sake of their own power. And I find that completely repugnant. Yeah, so those are not the kind of people I want to hang around with. Okay, I got off my soapbox. But, we have to apply what we learn in our spiritual practice to what we see in society, don't we? And we have to know, spiritual practice isn't just on Sunday morning, I'm such a good Buddha, I'm such a good Buddhist, and I'm praying to the Buddha, and I brought a few oranges for him. It's like, really, if we want to practice, we have to apply it to everything that happens in our life, and not just have our life segregated into different activities, so that we have different personalities when we're with, different people, and different values when we're with different people. I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it? I say whatever people want me to say, and they all like me. Okay, we're on the section called Buddha nature, our potential to change. Okay, so we have the potential to change. So don't think that you can't change. Because all these things that function are impermanent and changing every moment anyway. So make them change in a virtuous way. Because our minds create our experiences, it is possible to free ourselves from cyclic existence by abandoning the ignorance, anger, and clinging attachment and the polluted karma that are its principal causes. Yeah, so we can abandon these things. It takes some effort, it takes repetition, it takes practice, but it's doable. Yeah, most of us learn to drive a car. Yeah, most of us learn to type to some degree or another. Okay, and it takes practice. Yeah, but we can do it. So these afflictions obscure the pure nature of our mind and can be removed. We have the Buddha nature, the potential to become fully awakened Buddhas within us. As the very nature of our mind, Buddha nature can never disappear. We can never be separated from it. Okay? So there's no idea in Buddhism that we are inherently defective, and therefore we should be ashamed of everything. There's no space in Buddhism for that kind of idea. Or that not only we aren't inherently defective, nobody else is either, I remember when this would come up when we would be at Kopan in the 70s, and somebody would say, well, Lama, what about Hitler? And Lama went, "He means well, dear." And we were all like, Hitler meant well? No, look what he did. But what Lama was trying to say was that no person is inherently, forever, permanently evil. People make mistakes. People do harmful things. And even somebody who does harmful things to one group often will treat another group very well. Okay. So it isn't that some person, everything they do is non-virtuous. Okay. So everybody has that potential. What is this Buddhist potential? There is a lot of discussion about this in the various Buddhist philosophical tenet systems. The view explained here is according to the Madhyamaka or middle way system, which most Tibetans consider to be the most accurate description of the nature of reality. Buddha nature is of two types. Okay, one, naturally abiding Buddha nature, and two, transforming or evolving Buddha nature. So naturally abiding Buddha nature is the natural purity of the mind, its emptiness of inherent existence. Okay? So the nature of the mind, its emptiness of inherent existence, is the ultimate nature of the mind. That's impossible to be removed from the mind. You can't cancel it. Yeah. So that is, the mind lacks an independent essence of its own. If it had such an essence, mental afflictions would inherently abide in the nature of the mind. They would be inseparable from the mind and thus could never be eliminated. However, since the mind lacks inherent existence, it can change and the afflictions can be eradicated such that they never arise again. Okay, so the afflictions are based on ignorance. Ignorance apprehends things to exist in the exact opposite way that they do exist. When you generate the wisdom that knows reality, it can overcome the ignorance such that the ignorance can never appear again. When the ignorance is banished from the mind, then afflictions cannot arise. Okay? So the afflictions are not the nature of the mind. We may be very habituated with them, but they are not the very nature of the mind. And if we, because they're based on a faulty premise, when that faulty premise is overcome, then the afflictions crumble. Mm-hmm. Okay. So how is this possible, to remove the afflictions and the ignorance? As described above, ignorance is the root of the problem. Because we misapprehend how we and other phenomena exist, anger, attachment, jealousy, conceit, afflictive doubt, wrong views, and a host of other disturbing mental states arise. These mental states motivate actions or karma, and the karmic seeds left by these actions continue along with our mind. When suitable conditions arise, they ripen as our experiences in samsara. Ignorance is an erroneous consciousness, whereas people and phenomena exist dependently. Ignorance apprehends them as existing independently. Okay. By cultivating the wisdom that sees how things actually exist, ignorance can be eliminated. This wisdom correctly sees that people and phenomena are empty of inherent or independent existence. because they exist dependent on other factors. All of us know that our bodies depend on the bodies of our parents, that our mental acuity is influenced by our education, that social problems and their solutions arise due to causes and conditions. And if you change the causes and the conditions, the social problems can be remedied. So nothing exists alone, independent, isolated from everything else. All phenomena are interdependent. So the wisdom that realizes everything is empty of inherent existence, because it arises dependent on other it realizes that everything is empty of inherent existence because everything arises dependent on other factors. That wisdom perceives the opposite of ignorance. While ignorance apprehends things as having an inherent nature, wisdom apprehends them as being empty of such a nature. Okay. Because wisdom apprehends phenomena as they actually are, because wisdom, did I say ignorance? No, because wisdom apprehends phenomena as they actually are, ignorance cannot stand up to it. Ignorance cannot be manifest in the mind at the same time as the wisdom directly perceiving the emptiness of independent existence is manifest. When the wisdom directly realizing the absence of independent or inherent existence grows increasingly more powerful through familiarization and repeated meditation, it is able to overpower ignorance, uprooting it completely from our mind stream, eliminating it so that it can never arise again. So that is possible to do. If there is a poisonous plant growing in your garden, that is, if you have knapweed, and the knapweed is growing in your garden and it's taking over everything and ruining all your daisies and your pretty flowers, if your knapweed can be uprooted, then you can stop its effect on the garden, and then the damage going to your daisies and your roses and so on, that stops. And knapweed can be overcome. And if you want to overcome knapweed, come to Sravasti Abbey. We have plenty of it, and we welcome you to help us overcome knapweed. Okay? And if you think while you're pulling the knapweed, I am removing the afflictions from sentient beings' minds, then you are practicing the Buddhist practice of mind training or thought training. Okay. So in this way, it is possible to attain nirvana and full awakening. In the state of full awakening, naturally abiding Buddha nature becomes the Buddha's nature body, the emptiness of inherent existence of a Buddha's mind, and the true cessations of defilements. The second type of Buddha nature, transforming Buddha nature or evolving Buddha nature, is the seed for the unpolluted mind. Okay? It consists of virtuous and neutral phenomena that can transform into a Buddha's omniscient mind. So these include mental factors such as concentration, love, compassion, wisdom, faith, and other virtuous mental states that we have now that are currently underdeveloped. Okay, the conventional nature of the mind, its clarity or luminosity, and its awareness or cognizant, knowing nature, is also part of the transforming Buddha nature, because that can be purified so that it continues on to full awakening. So that conventional nature of the mind is neutral. Afflictions and defilements have not entered into its nature, so it can be transformed into a virtuous or a wholesome state. Yippee! Yeah. So this is what we should base our self-esteem on and our self-confidence on. Okay, that we have this ability, we have this nature. It can never be removed from the mind. So there's no reason to ever feel that we are incompetent. Underdeveloped, yes, we are. Our good qualities are underdeveloped. Are they thoroughly lacking? No. Every sentient being has two types of Buddha nature that are always present within them. No matter how disgusting someone's actions may be at any particular moment, that person is not inherently evil or depraved. Okay? The actions are not the person. The person has Buddha nature, and thus change is possible. There is always hope, and that is a sound reason to respect each and every living being. So you may disagree with people, you may disapprove of their actions, but they have the Buddha nature, and we can respect that. Afflictions are like clouds in the pure blue sky. The clouds are not in the nature of the sky. Okay? Although they may temporarily obscure the sky, they are momentary and adventitious. So we see that. Today's a good example. Sometimes it's overcast, sometimes it's clear and the sun shines. Then it gets overcast again, then the sun shines. Yeah? Okay. So the pure nature of the sky remains untainted, even when the clouds come and obscure it. The nature of the sky is not polluted. Okay. The clouds can be removed. While we don't have much control over the weather and the presence or absence of clouds, we do have the power to remove the clouds of defilements obscuring our minds. We can purify our negativities and create the causes for happiness and liberation. This is what this book is about. That's why this book was written, to teach us how to do that. That's why Dharmarakshita wrote the poem. Okay. The fact that we have Buddha nature also means that there is a valid basis for self-confidence. Instead of basing our self-esteem on transient factors, such as physical appearance, wealth, athletic or artistic ability, social status, others' approval, reputation, and so forth, all these things that will surely disintegrate with the passage of time, instead of basing our confidence on that stuff, which is changing, going out of existence, we can now base our self-confidence on a stable factor, our Buddha nature. No matter whether we are healthy or sick, rich or poor, appreciated or neglected, our Buddha nature is still present and gives us the possibility of attaining Buddhahood. So from a Buddhist viewpoint, we may be very sick, we may be dying, we may be in pain. Our whole life may be crumbling and falling apart because the stock market went down and we lost all our money and our spouse divorced us and, our pet frog won't even jump on our lap anymore. Everybody's turned against us. We still have the Buddha nature. Yeah, we can still make our life meaningful. Okay, so now we're on chapter 3, which is entitled Brave Peacocks and Cowardly Crows. So we get to hear about peacocks. Our neighbor down the road had peacocks. He gave some of them away. One of those peacocks was what? Aggressive, yes. Mhm. But she meant well. She was trying to connect. She just was going about connecting the wrong way by biting our robes. So Dharmarakshita uses this simile of peacocks and crows, throughout the book. It's very good. So now we will begin the actual text. Please read the verses and explanations slowly. Stop and think about each verse. See if it makes sense logically, and make examples of how it pertains to your life. Reflect on each verse from the perspective of cyclic existence and the law of karma and its effects, as described above. Okay, so it starts out with an homage. The texts never start out at the beginning. You always have an homage and a promise to compose and so on. So he says, homage to the 3 jewels. This is the wheel of sharp weapons striking at the vital points of the enemy. Homage to the wrathful Yamantaka. Okay, so one of the Hindu gods, was it Indra? One of them had a weapon that was a wheel with other weapons in it. So when the wheel turned, you had a whole bunch of weapons attacking somebody. Okay. So this is the wheel of sharp weapons. When he talks about the enemy is the self-grasping ignorance, okay, and the self-centered thought. So sometimes they use another thing, the butcher and we'll get into it. Yeah, anyway. And then there's homage to Yamantaka. So Yamantaka is one of the fierce deities. Yeah, he's a Buddha. You go, well, why is a Buddha looking like that with 9 heads and 34 arms holding weapons and an angry buffalo head with horns and fangs, holding an elephant skin and has decorated by skulls. That's a Buddha. I don't want to meet this guy on an empty alley. He looks pretty ferocious. I'm afraid of Yamantaka. Yamantaka is a Buddha. He has wisdom and compassion. The ferocity is directed not at sentient beings, because sentient beings have the Buddha nature. His ferocity or fierceness is directed at our afflictions, at our ignorance, at our self-centered thought. So Yamantaka is on our side, helping us to eliminate the real enemies that keep us in samsara, ignorance and self-centeredness. Okay. So Dharmarakshita begins by paying homage to the 3 jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The Dharma jewel, the true cessation of dukkha, which is the first of the 4 truths, meaning suffering or unsatisfactory circumstances. So the Dharma jewel, the truth of cessation, the true cessation of dukkha and its causes, and the path leading to that, Okay, so this Dharma jewel is the real refuge, because actualizing the true cessation and the true path in our mind streams is what actually protects us from misery. So it's our realizations that are the ultimate refuge, because when we have those realizations and we've actualized the true cessations of afflictions and so on, then we're safe. Then we can overcome cyclic existence. Okay. So the Buddha taught the path to achieve these cessations, and for this reason, he is the supreme teacher or guide for us sentient beings. The Sangha jewel consists of all those who have direct realization of the nature of reality, and in that way become reliable friends on the path. Okay, so the realizations, the true path, the true cessations, what we have actualized, those are the real protection, because it means we've eliminated the afflictions. So the Dharma jewel is, our object of refuge. The Buddha taught it from his own experience, so he's an object of refuge. And the Sangha has actualized it to some degree or another. Here, meaning that the Sangha are people who have direct, non-conceptual experience of the nature of reality. So they too are a reliable refuge. Our relationship with the three jewels is similar to that of a sick person with a doctor, medicine, and nurse. We are the sick person suffering from the pain of cyclic existence, birth, aging, sickness, death, not getting what we like, being separated from what we find desirable, and experiencing problems that we don't want. So that's our disease. That's our suffering. We want to be well, but are ignorant about the cause of our illness and the treatment that will cure it. So we're so ignorant that we're doing what makes us sicker. Okay, like a person with lung cancer who continues smoking. Okay, so we're like that. So the Buddha is the doctor who diagnoses the causes of the illness of cyclic existence. What's the diagnosis? What's the cause? Ignorance, afflictions, and polluted karma. He then prescribes the medicine of the Dharma. What is that medicine? Ethical conduct, concentration, wisdom, love, compassion, and altruism. The Sangha are the nurses who encourage us and help us take the medicine. This is the way that the three jewels guide us to spiritual health. Okay, so it's a very good analogy, I think. I remember after one retreat, one young man said, I've always kind of had some difficulty connecting with the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha being the three jewels of refuge. And he said, I think that's because I don't see myself as the sick person. Yeah, there's some arrogance there that thinks I am not a sick person. And that arrogance becomes a block to understanding and taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. When faced with an attack, warriors seek to strike at the vital points of the enemy, to kill him or her and stop the harm that person is causing. Okay, so warriors don't sit and, play checkers with the enemy, and say, you're doing this and it really isn't so good, blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying warriors are good, but what I'm saying is warriors get to the point, and they strike at the vital thing. Yeah. In terms of killing people, this is not good. But in the analogy of like not messing around and getting to the point, that's what the analogy is about. Okay. For bodhisattvas seeking full awakening, the vital points to eradicate are the self-grasping ignorance that grasps persons and phenomena as existing with their own inherent essence, and its accomplice, the self-centered attitude that considers our own happiness and suffering to be more important than those of everyone else, and our own liberation more important than anybody else's liberation. Okay, so the teachings in this poem form the wheel of sharp weapons that will strike at and kill these sources of our misery. Dharmarakshita then pays homage to Yamantaka, the wrathful form of Manjushri, and Manjushri is the Buddha of wisdom. While Manjushri's appearance is peaceful and compassionate, Yamantaka's is fierce. His body is dark blue. He has 9 heads and 34 arms that hold weapons and bodily parts of his foes. Okay. Yamantaka does not mess around, okay? His 16 legs trample various animals and worldly gods, so they trample our wrong views. He stands amidst a raging fire and roars like terrifying thunder. Okay, so really, between the fire and the thunder and what he looks like. Okay. So Yamantaka, whose name means Vajra terrifier of the Lord of Death. So the Lord of Death is often called Yama, and then Yamantaka is the terrifier of that Lord of Death. Okay, so he counteracts the enemy of death and cyclic existence. So it isn't that he just, gives you some kind of elixir so you don't die. Yeah, but you still have this kind of body. Rather, to stop death, which is the last of the 12 links of dependent arising, we must eradicate the first link, ignorance, from which arises the karma causing rebirth in cyclic existence. If you want to study about the 12 links of dependent arising, volume 4, Following in the Footsteps of the Buddha, has quite a long explanation of that. We will get to that eventually. Oh, it's in volume 3. Yes, sorry. Yeah. Volume 4 is the antidote. Okay. Volume 4 is the three higher trainings. Volume 3 is the 12 links. So come to the Friday night teachings. So while phenomena exist dependent on other things, such as their causes and their parts, ignorance apprehends them as existing with an independent nature. So we hear this again and again and again. Why? Because we don't understand what it means. Yeah. So we have to hear it again and again so that we start to wonder, what in the world does this mean to have an independent nature? Okay. Realizing that phenomena have a dependent nature, wisdom negates their having an independent or inherent nature. Because wisdom sees things as they really are, it is capable of overcoming and eventually completely eradicating ignorance so that it can never arise again. So We just heard this. Why is there repetition? Because we still don't believe that we can overcome our ignorance. Actually, we can't even identify our ignorance. That's how ignorant we are. We can't even identify what ignorance is. Okay, so we have to hear these things repeatedly so that we begin to question what the words mean and what's going on here, and put some energy into understanding. Okay, now, first two verses, that was the homage, yeah? Now the first two verses. When peacocks roam through the jungle of virulent poison, though the gardens of medicinal plants are attractive, the flocks of peacocks will not take delight in those gardens, for peacocks thrive on the essence of virulent poison. Okay. Likewise, when heroes, the bodhisattvas, enter the jungle of cyclic existence, though the gardens of happiness and prosperity of liberation may seem beautiful, the heroes will not become attached to them, for heroes thrive in the jungle of suffering. The crows are just the opposite, but we'll come to that. So in this poetic metaphor, peacocks symbolize the great bodhisattvas. So those who have spontaneous bodhicitta in their mind, such that when they see a sentient being, the thought that arises in their mind is, I want to lead that person to full awakening. Yeah. So that's quite the opposite of our first thought when we see a sentient being, which is usually, are they a friend or an enemy? Will they help me? Will they harm me? Are they attractive or ugly? Are they rich? Are they poor? Will I like them? Will they like me? Yeah, that's usually our first response to sentient beings. Yeah, it's interesting. Check. When you meet a new person, what thoughts go through your mind? Is your first thought, wow, this is somebody with the Buddha nature, and I want to lead them to enlightenment? No. Okay. So the peacocks symbolize these great bodhisattvas. The jungle represents cyclic existence that we're stuck in, and the virulent poisons are the afflictions, especially the three poisons of ignorance, anger, and attachment. Although the peacocks have the opportunity to enjoy medicinal gardens, beautiful gardens full of medicinal plants. Yeah. When His Holiness taught in Hamburg, we went to the gardens nearby, and they were gorgeous, filled with beautiful flowers, and a whole medicinal section. Okay. Although the peacocks have the opportunity to enjoy the medicinal gardens, they are not captivated by the beauty and shun them in favor of poisonous plants. I went to the beautiful gardens. I wanted to stay there. Yeah? While they live in treacherous jungles and eat poisonous plants, peacocks are not harmed by these. Instead, they thrive, and their feathers take on the beautiful colors that draw us to them. We're drawn to peacocks, aren't we? They're beautiful. Crows, not so much. Yeah. How do the peacocks get their beautiful feathers? They eat poisonous plants. They live in the middle of the jungle of poisonous plants. So bodhisattvas manifest in our world where people are filled with afflictions and polluted karma. Yeah, bodhisattvas manifest. Our world is like a madhouse. Yeah, with all these people running around totally just acting out of afflictions and self-centeredness. And bodhisattvas deliberately take rebirth here in order to benefit us. Yeah, we experience even the teeniest bit of discomfort and we want to get out of there. Bodhisattvas, they stay in the nut house of this world. And this world is a nut house, isn't it? So in the same way, Arya Bodhisattvas, those who have the wisdom directly perceiving reality, could choose to enter nirvana and be forever free from cyclic existence. However, due to their strong compassion and bodhicitta, they choose not to stay in the state of personal peace and voluntarily take birth in cyclic existence. It's amazing what they do. It's amazing what bodhisattvas do. Yeah, if you had the chance to be free from cyclic existence, would you choose to stay in the middle of it? Yeah. Although they appear in cyclic existence, these bodhisattvas are not overwhelmed by the afflictions that cause repetitive rebirth. Okay? So they have wisdom and compassion. The compassion allows them to want to stay in cyclic existence. The wisdom prevents them from being afflicted and polluted by the environment in cyclic existence. Okay. So it's kind of like that person in the Q&A session who was saying, my friends are like this and I'm trying to be in a different way. Then we have to be like these courageous bodhisattvas. Mm-hmm. So these bodhisattvas are not overwhelmed by the afflictions that cause repetitive rebirth. Instead, they thrive on the afflictions that have not yet been totally cleansed from their mind and transform these mental poisons into the path to full awakening. Okay? So actually, it's better not to say they transform the afflictions. They take the afflictions as the path, but the afflictions themselves cannot be transformed. They have to be overcome. For this reason, because the bodhisattvas do this, they are called heroes. Arya bodhisattvas are not seduced by the joys and pleasures of cyclic existence, but steadily continue on the path, happily enduring whatever hardships they encounter, for the noble aim of attaining Buddhahood, and thus being able to benefit all sentient beings most effectively. They practice until all their afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations are eradicated due to the force of the wisdom realizing the ultimate truth, supported by bodhicitta. Quite amazing. Let's pause here if there are questions.
Comment going back to Buddha nature as a basis of self-confidence. Mm-hmm. I realized from this discussion today that part of the reason that Well, anyway, that's a hard thing to hold on to, that as a basis for self-confidence. But I realized that I was deeply trained that self-confidence is based on what is unique about you. Your talent, your skill, your whatever is special. And Buddha nature, everybody has. We're all the same. So it has to overcome that kind of early implanted seed in order to even be able to have that as a basis.
Yeah. Of I'm special. Yes. I am special. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Our unique, special individuality is what we base our self-confidence on. But Buddha nature, everybody has it. I'm not unique. I'm just like everybody else. Even though Buddha nature is much better than my unique talents, I still want to be unique. I want to have my unique Buddha nature that's different from everybody else's. Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it? How the I has got to be the center of everything. Yeah. Other questions?
Someone says, from your explanation of the death of the 5-year-old black child in Tulsa, I assume that if a depraved person viewing Buddhist nuns as Satan were to murder you all, I could assume that you had all been murderous soldiers in a previous life.
But read that again. I missed part of it.
So from your explanation of the death of the child in Tulsa,
Yeah.
I assume that if a depraved person viewing
A depraved person?
if a depraved person
Okay.
viewing Buddhist nuns as Satan were to murder you all, that we would then have been murderous soldiers in a previous life.
If somebody murders us, it means in a negativity we committed, in a previous life, we committed some horrible negativity.
And they're saying that's not terribly convincing or satisfying to me.
Okay. Yeah, I explain it, and it's your choice to whether it satisfies you or not. I can't make that happen. But just try and consider it. If you have some kind of confidence in multiple lives and some awareness that we do not have a concrete personality, that we change a lot in one life, that we can have very different personalities from one life to the next, that then the fact that people can change, that their values can change, that they can be, destructive in one moment and be incredibly kind the next moment. Yeah, then you have some awareness that we don't have some fixed, inherently existent personality. And even you look at us right now, we're just a bundle of contradictory mental states, aren't we? 1 minute we're angry, the next minute we're kind, 1 minute we're jealous, the next minute we're sharing, 1 minute we're stingy, the next minute, we're generous. We don't have some stable personality that's always the same and always predictable. So we don't even have that in one life, let alone among, in many lives. Okay. And I work with people who are incarcerated. Some of them have done the actions that I fear and am terrified of the most. And yet I have very good relationships with these people and I respect them. And many of them a few of them in particular, are excellent practitioners. Okay, so we'll end here for today.